All this was communicated to the Tsar on the evening of March 1st. Deep into the night, they coaxed and argued about a responsible ministry. Finally, at 2 o'clock in the morning, the Tsar gave his consent, and those around him drew a sigh of relief. Since they took it for granted that this would settle the problem of the revolution, an order was issued at the same time that the troops which had been sent to Petrograd to put down the insurrection should return to the front. Trotsky hurried down to convey the good news to Rodzianko. But the Tsar's clock was way behind. Rodzianko in the Taurid Palace, already buried under a pile of Democrats, socialists, soldiers, workers, deputies, replied to Trotsky, "Your proposal is not enough. It is now a question of dynasty itself. Everywhere the troops are taking the side of the Duma, and the people are demanding an abdication in favor of the heir with Mikhail Alexandrovich as regent. Of course, the troops never thought of demanding either the heir or Mikhail Alexandrovich. Rodzianko merely attributed to the troops and the people that slogan upon which the Duma was still hoping to stop the revolution. But in either case, the Tsar's concession had come too late. The anarchy was reached such proportions that Rodzianko was this night compelled to appoint a provisional government. Unfortunately, the edict has come too late. These majestic words bear witness that the president of the Duma had succeeded in drying the tears shed over Golitsyn. The Tsar read the conversation between Rodzianko and Trotsky and hesitated, read it over again, and decided to wait. But now the military chiefs had begun to sound the alarm. The matter concerned them too a little. General Alexeyev carried out during the hours of that night a sort of plebiscite among the commanders-in-chief at the fronts. It is a good thing present-day revolutions are accomplished with the help of the telegraph, so that the very first impulses and reactions of those in power are preserved to history of the tape. The conversations of the Tsarist field marshals of the night of March 1st and 2nd are incomparable human document. Should the Tsar abdicate or not? The commander-in-chief of the Western Front, General Ever, consented to give his opinion only after Generals Trotsky and Brusilov had expressed themselves. The commander-in-chief of the Romanian Front, General Sakharov, demanded that before he expressed himself, the conclusions of all the other commanders-in-chief should be communicated to him. After long delays, this valiant chieftain announced that his warm love to the monarch should not permit his soul to reconcile itself with an acceptance of the base suggestion. Nevertheless, with sobs, he advised the Tsar to abdicate in order to avoid still viler pretensions. Adjutant General Ever quite reasonably explained the necessity for capitulation. "I am taking all measures to prevent information as to the present situation in the capital from penetrating the army in order to protect it against indubitable disturbances. No means exist for putting down the revolution in the capitals. Grand Duke Nikolai Nikolayevich on the Caucasian front besieged the Tsar on the bended knee to adopt the super measure and renounce the throne. A similar prayer came from General Alexeyev and Brusilov and Admiral Nepenin. Ruski spoke orally to the same effect. The generals respectfully presented seven revolver barrels to the temple of the adored monarch, fearing to let slip the moment for reconciliation with the new power, and no less fearing their own troops, these military chieftains, accustomed as they were to surrendering positions, gave the Tsar and the High Commander-in-Chief a quite unanimous counsel: retire without fighting. This was no longer distant Petrograd, against which, as it seemed, one might send troops. This was the front from which the troops had to be borrowed. Having listened to this suggestively circumstanced report, the Tsar decided to abdicate the throne, which he no longer possesses. A telegram to Rodzianko suitable to the occasion was drawn up. There is no sacrifice that I will not make in the name of the real welfare and salvation of my native mother Russia. Thus I am ready to abdicate the throne in favor of my son, and in order that he may remain with me until he is of age, under the regency of my brother Mikhail Alexandrovich. Nicholas. This telegram too, however, was not dispatched, for news came from the capital of the departure of Pskov, of the deputies Guchkov and Shulgin. This offered a new pretext to postpone the decision. The Tsar ordered the telegram returned to him. He obviously dreaded to sell 2 sheep, and still hoped for conforming news, or more accurately, hoped for a miracle. Nicholas received the 2 deputies at 12 o'clock midnight, March 2 to 8. The miracle did not come, and it was impossible to evade longer. The Tsar unexpectedly announced that he could not part with his son. What vague hopes were then wandering in his head, and signed an abdication in favor of his brother. At the same time, edicts to the Senate were signed naming Prince Vlov president of the Council of Ministers, and Nikolai Nikolayevich supreme commander-in-chief. The family, suspicious of the Tsarina, seemed to have been justified. He hated Nikolasha, came back to power along with the conspirators. Gushkov apparently seriously believed that the revolution would accept the most august war chief. The latter also accepted his appointment in good faith. He even tried for a few days to give some kind of orders and make appeals for the fulfillment of patriotic duty. However, the revolution painlessly removed him. In order to preserve the appearance of a free act, the abdication was dated 3 o'clock in the afternoon, on the presence that the original decision of the Tsar to abdicate had taken place at that hour. But as a matter of fact, that afternoon's decision, which gave the spectre to his son and not to his brother, had been taken back in anticipation of a more favorable turn of the wheel. Of that, however, nobody spoke spoke out loud. The Tsar made a last effort to save his face before the hated deputies, who upon their part permitted his falsification of a historic act, this deceiving of the people. The monarchy retired from the scene, preserving its usual style, and its successors also remained true to themselves. They probably even regarded their connivance as the magnanimity of a conqueror to the conqueror. Departing a little from the phlegmatic style of his diary, Nicholas writes on March 2nd, "This morning Trotsky came and read me a long conversation over the wire with Rotsianko. According to his words, the situation in Petrograd is such that the ministry of the members of the State Duma will be powerless to do anything, for it is being opposed by the Social Democratic Party in the person of a workers' committee. My abdication is necessary." Trotsky transmitted this conversation to Alexeyev at her headquarters and to all the commanders-in-chief. Answers arrived at 12 and a half to save Russia and keep the army at the front. I decided upon this step. I agree, and they sent from headquarters the text of an abdication. In the evening came Gushkov and Shulgin from Petrograd, with whom I talked it over and gave them the document amended and signed. At 1 o'clock in the morning I left Pskov with heavy feelings around the treason, cowardice, deceit. The bitterness of Nicholas was, we must confess, not without foundation. It was only a short time ago, as February 28, that General Alexeyev had telegraphed to all the commanders-in-chief at the front, "Upon us all lies a sacred duty before the sovereign and the fatherland to preserve loyalty to oath and duty in the troops of the active army." 2 days later, Alexeyev appealed to these same commanders-in-chief to violate their loyalty to oath and duty. In all the commanding staff there was not found one man to take action in behalf of his Tsar. They all hastened to transfer to the ship of the revolution, firmly expecting to find comfortable cabins there. Generals and admirals one and all removed the Tsarist braid and put on the red ribbon. There was news subsequently of one single righteous soul, some commanders of a corps, who died of heart failure taking the new oath. But it is not established that his heart failed through injured monarchy's feelings and not through other causes. The civil officials naturally were not obligated to show more courage than the military. Each one was saving himself as he could. But the clock of the monarchy decidedly did not coincide with the revolutionary clocks. At dawn of March 8, Trotsky was again summoned to the direct wire from the capital. Rotsianko and Prince Lvov were demanding that he hold up the Tsar's abdication, which had again proved too late. The installation of Alexei said the new authorities evasively might perhaps be accepted by whom, but the installation of Mikhail was absolutely unacceptable. Trotsky with some venom expressed his regret that the deputies of the Duma who had arrived the night before had not been sufficiently informed as to the aims and purposes of their journey. But here too, the deputies had their justification. Unexpectedly to us all, unexpectedly to us all, there broke out such a soldier's rebellion as I never saw the like of, explained the Lord Chamberlain to Trotsky, as though he had done nothing all his life but watch soldiers' rebellions. To proclaim Mikhail Emperor will pour oil on the fire, and where will begin a ruthless extermination of everything that can be exterminated. How it whirls and shakes and bends and comforts them all. The general silently swallowed this news, this new vile pretension of the revolution. Alexeyev alone sadly relieved his spirit in a telegraphic bulletin to the commanders-in-chief. The left parties and the workers' deputies are exercising a powerful pressure upon the president of the Duma, and there is no frankness or sincerity in the communications of Rodzianko. The only thing lacking to the generals in those hours was sincerity. But at this point, the Tsar again changed his mind. Arriving in Mogilev from Pskov, he handed to his former chief of staff, Alexeyev, for transmission to Petrograd, a sheet of paper with his consent to the handing over of the spectre to his son. Evidently, he found this combination in the long run more promising. Alexeyev, according to the Nikin story, went away with the telegram and did not send it. He thought that those two manifestos, which had already been published to the army and the country, were enough. The discord arose from the fact that not only the Tsar and his councillors, but also the Duma liberals, were thinking more slowly than the revolution. Before his final departure from Mogilev on March 8, the Tsar, already under formal arrest, wrote an appeal to the troops, ending with these words: "Whoever thinks now of peace, whoever desires it, the man is a traitor to the fatherland, its betrayer." This was in the nature of a prompted attempt of snatch out of the hands of liberalism the accusation of Germanophilism. The attempt had no result. They did not even dare publish the appeal. Thus ended a reign which had been a continuous chain of ill luck, failure, misfortune, and evil doing, from the Kodinka catastrophe during the coronation through the shooting of strikes and revolution peasants, the Rus-Japanese War, the frightful putting down of the revolution of 1905, the innumerable executions, punitive expeditions, and national pogroms, and ending with the insane and contemptible participation of Russia in the insane, contemptible world war. Upon arriving at Trotsky's cello, where he and his family were confined in the palace, the Tsar, according to Virubova, softly said, "There is no justice among men." But those very words irrefutably testify that historic justice, thought it comes late, does exist. The similarity of the Romanov coupled to the French royal pair of the epoch of the Great Revolution is very obvious. It has already been remarked in literature, but only is passing and without drawing inferences. Nevertheless, it is not at all accidental, as appears at the first glance, but offers valuable materials for an inference.